When you flip on the news and see reports about war, what do you really see? Usually it's all chaos, headlines, and big geopolitical moves. But what if we took a step back? What if we looked at war not just as a series of events, but as a structured social thing? Something with patterns, functions, and really deep-seated causes. Okay, let's dive in and really unpack the sociology of war. Here's the game plan for our journey today. First, we're going to trace how war has evolved, to see how we even got here. Then, we'll get into the really fascinating part, using 4 powerful sociological lenses to understand why it keeps happening. After that, we'll face the absolutely staggering costs of conflict. And finally, we'll explore the global search for peace and what it might actually take to get there. All right, first up, the evolution of war. Because honestly, if we want to get a handle on conflict in the 21st century, we have to understand its long, long journey, from just localized fights between neighboring groups to the massive, global, high-tech institution it is today. So let's get on the same page with a clear sociological definition. War isn't just random violence or chaos. It is, and this is the key, organized, armed violence. It's aimed at a specific group to achieve a specific goal. And that distinction, it's absolutely crucial because it frames war as a deliberate social activity, not just some random breakdown of society. This timeline really shows something pretty profound. In many ways, war literally built the world we live in today. I mean, it started with these small-scale battles, but centuries of that constant conflict is actually what consolidated power and forged the modern state as we know it. Now, fast forward to today, and technology has completely changed the game. You've got drones, cyber warfare, nations can fight from thousands of miles away. And in our globalized world, a conflict anywhere can seriously mess with the economy and security everywhere.
So that brings us to the real analytical heart of this whole thing. We've seen how war has changed, but the big question is why? Why is it still such a persistent part of the human story? Well, to answer that, we're going to look at the problem through 4 completely different sociological lenses.
And this really is the central question, isn't it? On the surface, it might seem like it's just about land or resources, but sociologists, they dig deeper. They want to understand the underlying structures, the beliefs and the social forces that make war a recurring option for societies. Now, this first one might sound a little weird, but stick with me. The functionalist lens asks, what purpose or function does war serve for a society? And surprisingly, it finds a few. Like we said, war helped create states. It can also create a powerful sense of unity, that rally-round-the-flag effect you see when a country is in a crisis. And it's a huge driver of innovation. I mean, things we use every single day, like GPS and the internet, were born from military research. Okay, now for a totally different take. The conflict lens asks a simple but really powerful question: cui bono? Who benefits? And from this perspective, the answer is a small, powerful elite. Corporate elites, they get access to resources. Political elites, they get to consolidate their power. And military elites, they get prestige and, of course, massive funding. This leads right to what President Eisenhower famously warned America about: the military-industrial complex, that tight, self-serving loop between the military, defense contractors, and the government. Our third lens brings in a critical factor that's so often overlooked: gender. It points out the very strong historical link between war and traditional ideas of masculinity. In fact, some data suggest that societies with greater gender inequality are more prone to conflict. Now, this perspective isn't about blaming men, not at all. It's about examining how societies construct and reward certain aggressive identities and how that can shape a nation's willingness to go to war. And finally, our fourth lens zooms way in on language and meaning. How is war made acceptable to the public? Well, it's through symbols and definitions. Governments work really hard to frame a conflict as necessary, just, and unavoidable. The language gets carefully managed. Think about it. People aren't murdered, they become casualties. This perspective shows us that war isn't just fought on a battlefield, it's first fought in our minds with ideas and words. So let's just put the 2 big ones side by side for a second. On one hand, you've got the functionalist view, which says war, for all its horror, can serve the wider group by building unity and technology. On the other hand, the conflict view argues the exact opposite, that war serves a powerful minority, concentrating wealth and power at everyone else's expense. These are just 2 fundamentally different ways of explaining the very same thing. Okay, we've been deep in the theory of why war happens, but now we need to get real. Let's move from the theories to the undeniable, tangible consequences. What is the true cost of all this conflict?
Just
Take a moment and look at this number. $2.44 trillion. That's what the world spent on its militaries in 2023 alone. This one single figure is the starting point for understanding the immense diversion of resources that war represents. And to put that giant global number into perspective, check out this breakdown. The United States military spending in 2023 was more than the next two countries, China and Russia, combined. The sheer scale of this investment shapes everything, from domestic priorities at home to international relations abroad. And this is where we see the crucial trade-offs, what economists call opportunity cost. This isn't about some abstract billions of dollars. Look at this data. The cost of a single F-35 fighter jet could pay the salaries of about 2,000 public school teachers for an entire year. And the annual maintenance for that same plane, that could send 12,000 kids to Head Start. It makes it crystal clear. Every dollar spent on a weapon is a dollar not spent somewhere else. And as huge as those financial numbers are, they're nothing compared to the human cost. We are talking about millions upon millions of lives lost, an unbelievable 120 million people displaced from their homes by violence as of 2024, widespread psychological trauma that can last for generations, and massive environmental destruction, sometimes even used as a deliberate military tactic. These are the costs that you just can't put a number on. This quote from a 2005 report really highlights a deep, deep irony. The global arms trade, which is often justified in the name of security, can end up fueling the very instability it claims it's trying to prevent. Basically, it can arm unstable regimes and just perpetuate these awful cycles of violence. So, after looking at the causes and the absolutely devastating costs, you have to ask, okay, so what's being done to stop it? Is there a better way? In our final section, we're going to explore exactly that, the complex strategies and the huge challenges in the ongoing search for global peace. Two of the key tools in the diplomatic toolkit are mediation and arbitration. The key difference is who makes the final call. In mediation, a neutral third party helps the conflicting groups talk it out and find their own solution. In arbitration, that neutral third party is more like a judge. They listen to both sides and then they make a final, binding decision that everyone has already agreed to follow. Both are designed to de-escalate conflict without violence. And when it comes to the most dangerous weapons on the planet, the international community has tried to use arms control treaties. This timeline shows a decades-long effort, all the way from the Cold War-era SALT treaties to the more recent New START treaty, and of course, the big one, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. All of them designed to cap, reduce, and prevent the spread of nuclear arsenals. But here's the tough reality. While all the global attention often focuses on those big, scary nuclear weapons, it's actually the widespread availability of small, conventional arms, rifles, grenades, light missiles, that fuels the vast majority of ongoing conflicts and causes immense suffering every single day. And controlling these, that's a far more complex and difficult problem. And this brings us to our final and most provocative question. For centuries, the guiding principle of international security has basically been, if you want peace, prepare for war. But after everything we've looked at today, the sociological drivers, the immense opportunity costs, the staggering human toll, we have to ask ourselves, is that paradox still the wisest path forward? Or is it possible that the very idea of preparing for war is what keeps the cycle going?